right. Well, Joey, I'm going to toss it over to you first. You play Thomas in The Chosen. Was that the role that you auditioned for?
This is a good question, and thank you for having me. So Thomas was not the first role I auditioned for. In fact, a lot of us auditioned for different parts. The first person I auditioned for was Simon. I ended up sending a tape for that. Um, Obviously, I think they realized that my muscles were too big for the role, which is why they gave it to Shahar instead. Um,
Obviously.
and
Old weenie armed
obviously,
Shahar.
yeah, exactly. Um, so I auditioned for Simon, didn't hear anything at all. So I figured, oh, they've moved on and they started shooting it already. And then 9 months later, I get a callback notice for Thomas, and I thought it was a mistake because I hadn't read for him. Went in, got to meet Dallas and got to meet Beverly, the casting director, and I was really surprised to hear Dallas say, like, I really liked your tape and I had been watching it and wanted to bring you back in. And that's not something you hear too often in the entertainment world, which was really cool. And here we are playing Thomas all the way into season 4, about to start season 5, and it's been really wonderful.
I watched an interview in which you were introduced as Doubting Thomas. Does that bother you that you get that label sometimes right away?
What's funny is I was keeping count of how many times people would either say that or make a doubting joke, and I told myself I'll put $1 into a jar every time someone says that. I can't keep up with it anymore. Honestly, it's been scrapped from how many times people say it. I will say I think it is an unfair title that he gets because he's not someone that doubts. I think he's someone who questions things because he loves Jesus so much. And I think a lot of human beings can relate to that because when you love someone or something so much, of course you want all of the answers and you want to make sure you're doing right by them and you want to make sure you're the best person that you can be. So I think it's more curious Thomas or questioning Thomas than doubting Thomas.
I like that perspective. I think that's healthy. Kirk, you play the role of Gaius. This is a really interesting character. You're playing a Roman soldier. How did you first learn about the Chosen series? How did you get pulled in?
I've had the great fortune of being friends with, and I've worked with Dallas for 23, 24 years now. So I've been blessed to be a part of everything he's made. And we were making short films, and I was sleeping in his basement, not in poverty or something, but I was in his basement. We'd be shooting a short film, and no one paid attention. So in those days, and now, as I say, Dallas is a 25-year overnight sensation. The guy's been making, in my opinion, really great content, really great stories, always character driven, always not stereotypical characters, always heartfelt, character driven, and character motivated everything. And so I heard about it though. He gave me a call and said, "Hey, I'm doing this." He called, he said, "Are you still acting?" Because I had a point where I was sort of doing some other things, and I'm like, yeah, of course. And so anyway, I auditioned like everyone else. He didn't have all the say. It had to go through other people as well, but I was blessed enough to get the role. So yeah, I've that's how I heard about it, was a phone call from Dallas.
So cool. The first 3 episodes of season 4 are out in theaters right now, and both of you have really significant character development in season 4. We're going deeper into your worlds, into your thought processes, into hardships, into challenges. So let me ask you both for season 4, what has been your favorite part of developing that character further, and what has been the most challenging? Joey, I'll start with you.
Sure. I really like that season 4 picks up where season 3 ends, specifically with Thomas. I know in season 3 we have that shot at the very ending where you see Thomas and Raymond both looking up at the same moon from completely different places, miles apart from one another. Um, Season 4 picks up right where that leaves off, and I think you get to see a much sweeter and kinder side to Thomas. He's out of his shell finally. He feels comfortable. He's ready. And on the flip side of that, Jesus's message is getting so much more radical to the point where it is dangerous for everybody now, right? We are starting to get surrounded by more Pharisees. We are seeing Rome really taking notice and taking action. And I think not only with Thomas, but with the disciples and even with the Romans, this really has a huge effect on them. And without giving any spoilers, we see how that starts to boil over.
Yeah. Kirk, what about you?
In terms of what exactly the direction that
Well,
guy.
yeah, the character development that we see in season 4, what was your favorite part of developing that character further in season 4? And were there any major challenges as an actor of really elevating that character even more this season?
I think what's great about what's happening with Gaius is the journey I'm on, meaning I was one way and perhaps becoming another, or
Mm,
certainly toying with another, looking across the street and seeing what's going on over this Jesus camp that I think started with the Sermon on the Mount, where I was really taken by what he had to say.
mhm.
So the continuation of that and where it leads in season 4, I think it just really starts to, I'll take your word, Joey, boils over,
Yeah.
clashes. I think it comes to a head. And I guess the word I would use, there's just great responsibility to me in
Mm,
all of this. A great responsibility, first and foremost, I think, to honor however Gaius is portrayed biblically. I think he's an accumulation of characters, but to honor the writing, to honor Dallas, to honor this story, I just see it as a great responsibility. And
yeah.
I take that with, with great concern, and it's just all about hard work, so I would say responsibility.
That's beautiful. Well, and it is, as you allude to, it is a challenge because we don't have full fleshed out stories in the Bible of these individuals, of these characters, and even the disciples. We have some information, but we don't know their backstories. So, Joey, for you, as you're crafting, how do I portray someone like Thomas, and how are the scripts written, working with the writers and Dallas? How are you focused on really crafting who Thomas should be?
I want to say I love that you mentioned that there's no real information about these people because it is true. Thomas has maybe a couple of sentences written about him in the scripture. I know the book of John mentions him the most, which I think is kind of cool to see the relationship between John and Thomas.
Hmm.
But the thing that's so lovely is the writers do such a great job at fleshing out who this person is and who he's going to become. We know he's known as Doubting Thomas, but the question now becomes, why is he that person? But what's going on with him that eventually leads him to this journey? And the writers take such great liberty with bringing this human perspective to all the characters, because we got to remember they're not saints yet, right? They're not stained glass windows. They are people just like us, incredibly flawed people who do not great things, and are called by this person to follow them. So it's really just about the writing, trying to bring your perspective to what you think it is, and collaborating with Dallas and everybody else, and just listening to the people around you. And I think that's what tends to make really beautiful art.
In the few minutes we have left, I would love to hear from both of you if you've had a favorite episode out of all the seasons that you have filmed. Kirk, I'll throw it to you first.
As I always say, I'm a horrible person with favorites. I don't even have a favorite song, color, food.
Oh,
I'm
no.
I'm bad. Sorry, very boring. I will say that one scene that was very, very fun to play was the follow me scene where where street preacher walks by. This guy's causing me all kinds of problems and says, "Follow me." And Matthew just gets up. This young man he locks his door 5 times, suddenly leaves his whole life, his beautiful home, his relationship with Quintus. Like no other Jew, I think I actually say it, no other Jew lives as good as you
Mm.
do. So what was great about that scene is the scene starts off kind of talking about the foot races and who was running last night. And so it's this kind of shooting the breeze kind of thing where Matthew is horrible at, but hey, you're going to be fine, to street preacher walking by, to me wanting him to move on, into Matthew just walking away from everything and me trying to stop him. So, and then he walks away. So there were so many emotional things to deal with in that scene. It was just very, very fun. It was very complete. It was like an entire sort of lifetime in one scene.
Wow.
It was spectacular.
That is
And I also
spectacular.
say the scene with Shahar at the cistern, the 8 page knot tying scene was really fantastic.
Yeah, so beautiful. Joy, what about you?
I really love season 2, episode 3, which is the campfire amongst all the disciples when
Yes.
Jesus is off healing. Just not just cinematically, because it's most of that episode is shot in one shot, which was really fun to do. It felt like a live theater piece in a way. And I guess from a literary perspective, it's really lovely because it's the first time the disciples are really opening up to one another. And, just like a Thanksgiving dinner, stuff does not go well and the gloves come off. You know what I mean? Which I think is one of the first times in the show we see these suppressed feelings of everybody now no longer able to be suppressed anymore. And I think a lot of people can relate to that sort of experience. So that's one of my favorites. I just love ensemble and teamwork stuff.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Well, thank you both. As a fan of The Chosen, thank you for your work on the show, and thanks for joining us today. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us.